Have you ever heard of an intuitive empath? An intuitive empath is someone who has the potential to feel what others feel deeply, on a guttural level, even when we don't want to. And I identify as an intuitive empath. I was told that many years ago by a woman that I used to see, a life coach counselor, who had nailed it in just the first couple sessions. And it really made a difference to me because once we could name that, I was able to come up with some strategies to manage my life from that point on. It was really, really significant. So, an intuitive empath, let's talk about what that means. It's we're able to absorb other people's stress, other people's emotions, sometimes even other people's physical pain. We shy away from spending too much time with too many people, often because we are so susceptible to other people's energies. So it's not that we constantly live in solitude or always need to be alone in total isolation. Some people do, but many of us don't. But it's just that we're so impacted by those around us that it becomes a matter of control and just being able to control our environment. So, like, for example, if we're in a really good mood and we're having a really great day, and then we come into contact with somebody who's really close to us who is going through something, that really can be something that can impact us in a way that we start to take on their feelings and become physically or emotionally not well. So, a lot of times what can happen is that we can be really reluctant to check in with people in those times when we're in a really great mood because we're afraid if we make that phone call or if we check in that something may impact the vibe that we have that we want to hold on to. And sometimes it's so hard to just have that space in your head where you just, with everything that's going on in the world, to actually be in a good mood and to be like, oh, I feel great today. You really want to hold on to that. And especially if you're an intuitive empath, it means something when you're in that headspace. And I think that many times, consciously or subconsciously, we do protect ourselves or we're very cognizant of when we're in that headspace. So I've been that way all of my life, and it's been both a challenge and a blessing at the same time, because it makes it hard to separate what I'm feeling from what other people are feeling a lot of times, whether it's mental or emotional. And it's been a gift in terms of how I've been able to feel and show compassion and empathy to others who are hurting around me. So that's a really important thing. I know for a fact that that is something that has enhanced my ability to show compassion to those around me. I can feel what other people feel so easily and so quickly that it really does shift my experience in that way. I can sense their pain, I can sense their discomfort, I can sense their dis-ease, and it allows me to reach out, whether it's contacting them or lending them a hand or a listening ear or just sending out simply a prayer to the universe, and they may or may not even know that, but it allows me to do that because of that gift. And I love that, and I feel especially glad that I can do that. But it can be a challenge to manage this way of being in times when the suffering of those around us, especially those who are really close to us, or those who are really cosmically tied to us, in those moments it can be difficult to separate their pain from our own pain, and that can be quite debilitating. And I have that happen to me quite frequently with my own sons, especially. I can, and anyone who's in my close circle, my family members especially, I can tell with my sons with just one glance or just a few short words exactly what headspace they're in. And I may not know all the details, but I don't need to know all the details. I know enough to know when they're not well. So when people have that strong intuitive empathy, then we have to put our attention to managing it at work, managing it at home, managing it just out in the world, running errands even, just being in places where there are, lots of people going to a sporting event. A lot of us tend to stay away from places where there are a lot of people coming together, concerts and state fairs and places like that, amusement parks. Those are way overwhelming for people like that. It's not that we don't ever do it, but when we do that, we go there definitely with a plan. If you don't, watch out. So, but detachment is really important to protect yourself from taking on someone else's struggle. That doesn't mean that you don't care or that you can't manage at all or that you refrain from showing compassion in some way, but it does mean that you remind yourself that you're a separate human being who would be better to keep those emotions separate so that you really can be of support, because two people having the same struggle and the same experience are going to get stuck in that cycle of pain. But if you can remain clear about what belongs to them and what belongs to you, then in the very least, it allows you to maintain your sanity, because life is hard enough for each of us. We don't need to take on other people's struggles on top of our own. We can walk alongside them and support. And that's not selfish, it's necessary for survival. In other words, when you can be clear about what your experience is, you can more easily tap into the ways that you can show compassion and support for those around you. And you'll have the energy also to do it, because you won't be completely depleted by being in that struggle along with them in the same way. And then you'll have something to offer, and hopefully they'll be able to receive it. But even if they can't or they don't, you'll be able to move forward on your own path, doing what you need to do to hold all your marbles together, because that's essential if you ever want to have anything ever to offer to anyone else.